It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, Weathertech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? Weathertech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy.
Weathertech.
Order your premium American-made products at weathertech.com.
And so a high bar has been set for race 2 of the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America by Yokohama GT3 Cup Series. We're here at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, where a whole sea of cars have lined up ready to take part in today's event. I'm Joe Peak here with Ryan Marine. And Ryan, we can see this is going to be our largest field, barring, of course, our endurance race happening later today. And because of that large field, I mean, it was nonstop yesterday, it felt like, at least when it wasn't under caution.
Yeah, it was fantastic racing when we had the chance under green flag conditions. And at the end of it, just plenty of drama, plenty of storylines that carry forward through to today. Look at this field here in the pit lane. It is absolutely bubbling with talented drivers and race teams ready to go once again, and a lot of these drivers will be taking part in the endurance race later on today, so they'll have that in the back of their mind. But right now the focus here is on this race, and for many on championship positions, because we're down to the final 3 races of the season.
Certainly, and some thinking about maybe getting their first win as we'll head through the grid. And of course, on the pole, big talking point on this one is going to be Paul Bocuse is still looking for that first victory with Jared Thomas next to him. He'll want to be quick off the line because Jared is going to be threatening all race long, with Aaron Janson starting in 3rd and Ashley Freiberg in P4 today there on row 2. Then you've got Conrad Geis, excellent qualifying for him, starting from P5, with Scott Blend in the Masters starting from 6th position, still going for that championship. Therese Lalu will be P7, and Jens Hansen, who impressed yesterday, is going to be starting from the 8th spot. Then we get into the 5th row with Rob Walker starting in 9th and Peter Atwater rounding out those top 10.
To the 6th row of the starting grid now. That's where you'll find Dave Musial 2.0 for Forward Motorsports, and Scott Blend there in the 12th starting position. Not sure about that. I thought we saw Scott already, but nevertheless, we'll continue on. Row 7, John Gilliland from Kelly Moss, and Mark Kwame making his first appearance in the championship of the season here this weekend. He's got the Racing to End Alzheimer's sponsorship on that machine. Row 8, Dave Musial Sr. and Frank Vitiello from JDX Racing. They line up there in 15th and 16th. Row number 9 of the starting grid, Joel Johnson from JDX and Mike Mim from MV2 Racing by Regal Motorsports. They'll start in 17th and 18th. Row 10, Jody Miller from MGM and Patrick Womack from the Chicago-based Fall Line Motorsports team.
Kyle Washington starts 21st with Dimitri Demakos on our pole for the 991s, but a lot closer to his rivals because right behind him is going to be Tony Melito and Niels Meissner. Will we have a better fight there amongst those 991s in 23rd and 24th for them? You get to Eric Lapp then in the 25th position. Alessandro Chiocchetti going to be started in P26 to complete row 13. Grady Willingham will start in the 27th position. John McInnes in 28th. They are going to be followed in 29th by Greg Shermer, and then 30th is going to be Daniel Ammon.
To the 16th row, Joey Bowden, Fall Line Motorsports, Charlie Peter, Team Phoenix, row 17, Thomas Herb and Nicholas Groombridge from Fall Line and Speed Sport Tuning, respectively. Row 19, Charles S. Craig and Francisco De Jesus, starting 37th and 38th. 38th, and John Snyder and Tim Kesman out back in 39th and 40th positions, respectively. Some of these cars towards the back, including Tim's, not sure he's going to be able to take the start after some misfortune earlier in the weekend.
The weekend has seen so many cars, unfortunately, have to sit by the wayside due to damage, and one of the talking points has been just how difficult it is to stay out of trouble with a punishing course such as this. Let's see if everybody manages to get to the end or even to the beginning of this race as somebody goes off of turn 14 before we get the green flag. A lot of cars lined up perfectly in rows here looking for the call and creeping along, frankly, here as there is the green flag, and Paul Bocuse gets a monster run over the outside row. In fact, third place now already for Jared Thomas as he gets jumped by Janson, and he might even lose third place as Ashley Freiberg looks on the inside, but she pulls back.
Wow, fantastic start from the pole sitter Bocuse. It's his third pole of the season, but he's looking for his first win, and he's got his hands full now as Janson goes the long way around in turn 3 and grabs the lead. Now it's side by side for second, and further back, collision between a couple of cars.
UCL 2.0 involved in it, and a couple others also coming to a halt, thankfully not hitting the wall, so they'll try and get back going as long as the cars are not unable to be restarted. Meanwhile, Freiberg is in third and actually fighting with Bocuse. He's gone from the pole to almost falling off the podium here at the beginning.
Gets his elbows out, though, and hangs on to that position. Freiberg shuffled back a little bit. It looks like Jens Hansen, by the way, is one of the other cars involved in that incident in turn number 3. Cars scrambling left, right, and center, looking for track position, looking to negotiate these opening corners here on the first lap. What a challenging opening lap it's been for many, but out in front, how about the newcomer for Charlie Hayes Racing with Aaron Janson out in front?
Oh man, he is not leaving anything up to chance on this one, immediately jumping up to the front of the field as the rest of the cars trail behind him. Conrad Geis looking very good in the mix as well, as he's actually threatening on Paul Bocuse as it stands. As they come into Canada Corner, he's going to have the outside down into there. Paul defending on the right-hand corner. He'll hold on to at least that fourth place.
Yeah, Ashley did get shuffled back behind Conrad there. Very opportunistic, I think, of Conrad, because it was Ashley on the attack on Paul a little bit earlier in the lap, but she got left on the outside, and Conrad Geis needed no second invitation to dive through that gap and grab that position. However, he's on the back foot now. It looks to me like Ashley Freiberg's got designs on trying to take that position back. It's a side-by-side race up the front straightaway, and the caution is out. One of those cars, perhaps both, unable to move on from the incident scene in turn number 3, so we go full course yellow.
So I believe that may be Manship that is halted up there. But yeah, we see two cars on our track map that have come to a halt currently, so I suspect you may be right that those two couldn't quite get it going. One at least moved all the way down to the bridge, but then couldn't make it any farther than that.
261 is shown as stopped. That's Peter Atwater.
Yeah.
Yes. Another car that's lagging behind is the 225, and that is Dave Musial 2.0. So that happened later in the lap. In fact, he just came down the pit lane.
Well, he was involved in that accident. We saw him go off course. They put it up on the jacks now, and I think they're giving it a look over to make sure it's okay. So I wonder if he was involved in some sort of contact. We did see him off to the inside of the circuit while the other two came to a halt.
Good look at it up close here on the screen as they take a look at the left rear, and it does look like the left side, you can see the Yokohama branding rubbed off of the left side sidewalls of those tires. And the team taking a close look at that just to make sure everything is safe and good to go.
Yeah, definitely feeling it very carefully so that they're sure the car can get back out. I'm sure they'd love to try and rush him out as soon as they can because he's still on the lead lap right now, but he's not going to have much time before they come back around and change that. So Janson leads Thomas and Bocuse there in our Pro-Ams, while Scott Blend, Rob Walker, and John Gilliland are your top three down in the Masters. Now, on the other hand, in the 991's Demakos is still up in front. Meissner has moved into second. Melito gets shuffled into third.
Interesting stuff within that class. It's been super competitive between Melito and Meissner all season long, and Dmitry Demakos has joined in the fun here this week and had a dominant win yesterday. Really eye-opening, I think, the advantage that he had over the two championship contenders. But they're all mixed up together here today. That should make for a lot of fun once we get back to racing.
Now, last time we had this in race 1, we had a long opening caution. So let's cross our fingers that this one's a little bit easier to clean up. I do know that we had 2 cars off at Canada Corner for race 1. This one kind of on the opposite end of the circuit here up in turn 3. And we did get eyes on it, the initial wreck. This time we didn't get to see what happened in yesterday's event. While, is that, I think that's the lead lap for Musial 2.0, isn't it? I think he's going to be able to get out ahead of the pack.
Correct, yeah. The field is just coming through Canada Corner right now, so whatever the repairs that were required, that's not what we wanted to see. Back to the paddock, not out on the racetrack like we were hoping. Here comes the field behind the safety car. Lights are still on. It does look like Atwater. The car is moving. It might be moving on the back of a flatbed. I'm not sure about that. The other car involved, again, Jens Hansen, seems to be tucked behind the barrier in a safe location there on the inside of this turn 3. I think you can see the car there, right-hand side of the shot, just behind the corner worker with the double yellow flags. So that car should be taken care of. The question is about this car. Yes, and it's being towed. I suspect they'll tow this through the access road there in turn 5 and get that car cleared nice and quickly. And that means we should be on the verge of a restart.
Yeah, there's Atwater on our screens. Thankfully, there's a nice big space where they can pull it actually pretty much right back to the paddock. They just pull a U-turn and go right up the hill there. So it'll be quick to get the car back to the mechanics and try to fix it up. They still have the 244, though, stationary on the inside, unless they maybe have pulled it behind the wall.
Yeah, they did. We got to look at that a moment ago. It's tucked behind the wall, right behind the corner worker station. So I think that we're going to be all right. In fact, you can see it right there by that tree, just to the left-hand side of the shot. That car out of harm's way, and I think that means then everything should be clear.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see those lights on top go off this time around. We'll have a much shorter caution period to start off race number 2, but not lacking in action, that is for sure. And Paul Bocuse, man, he's got to be frustrated that he started off with that top spot and has already lost that track position. And in fact, the man that he's been chasing for much of the time, Jared Thomas, is even one of those that has managed to get by.
Yeah, that is a disappointment there. And I think a lot of credit, though, has to go to Jean-Son, because on cold tires, he let it ride around the outside there in turn 3 and made it stick. I think Paul did a pretty good job to cover off the inside and said, you know what, Aaron, if you want to make that move, more power to you. But Aaron made it work, and that put Paul on the back foot. Thomas was able to come through. Interesting, remember we saw the drag race coming up the hill just before the yellow flag between Geiss and Freiberg. And at least as they are positioned behind the safety car right now, Conrad Geiss would have held on to that position. It looks like he has. Not sure he would have, though, if it had stayed green. So a bit of a advantage there for Conrad Geiss, who was under attack just before the yellow came out.
What's interesting is we haven't gotten any messages from race control in terms of investigating that opening incident that put us under yellow. And the good news is we're also not seeing any messages for drivers have to swap. So thankfully they did get that right on who was where between the two of Conrad and Ashley. But we did get confirmation that the lights are out on the pace car. So we're getting ready to go. This time going to be single file up into turn 1. Will we see any changes up at the front like we did at the start initially of this race? And for our masters, will Scott Blend be able to hold off the likes of Walker, Gilliland, Bowden as well, vying hard for that championship. Going to be restarting there from 4th in the Masters. He's got a pretty handy gap. He knows he needs to just points race this one to the end, so he doesn't want to get involved in any craziness.
No, he doesn't, but I will say Blend cut into that deficit yesterday. It was 21 points coming into the weekend, and Blend finished up in 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look and see. Yep, 2nd yesterday. Bowden was back in 6th, so that lead did shrink somewhat, and he finds himself Bowden does, in a situation much like yesterday, where the guy he really doesn't want to finish up front is leading the race right now. Rob Walker had a really good start to get up to 2nd. He was off the podium in 4th yesterday, but threatening for a podium late in the race. He might be in line for another good result here today.
Car's ready to go as we come up to turn 14. Pace car is already well ahead. Janson will have control of the field, and he's already out of the final corner. I wonder if he's actually already accelerating away. Yes, indeed he is. Full throttle. He is on song. The 250 accelerates past the flag stand, but look at this. Jared Thomas is dangerously close, and in fact, Paul Bocuse might be able to threaten, as between Ashley Freiberg and Conrad Geis, they go side by side. I think Conrad holds her back.
Yeah, he did. She had a nice run, big head of steam, but he made her go the long way around, and she wasn't confident enough, or willing enough at any rate, to try that outside move, considering we've had a lot of cars on track today, a lot of marbles offline around this racetrack here at this stage. So she settles back in line. That's the fight for 4th and 5th. In the meantime, Scott Blend fighting, Therese Laloux fighting as well. Oh, this is a big move. This is for the lead of the race, with Janson fighting with his MX5 Cup team boss, Jared Thomas, who swings to the inside.
Thomas just measured that to perfection. He's going to take the lead away. Janson getting loose out in the rough stuff. And now Bocuse thinks about a move, but decides it's a little too early for something around the outside of turn 7. But I can't believe Thomas managed to get that car cut across. He must have scraped the paint off of the front bumper.
Yeah, no mercy on his driver from another series. Here, of course, we have Janson driving for Charlie Hayes Racing, not JTR Motorsports Engineering as he does in other series. But those two know each other well, didn't cut each other a whole lot of slack, but gave each other enough room to coexist.
Now we get an update from Race Control. 244 and 261 incident under review. We'll see if we can get an answer on that. A lot of dust being kicked up out of the kink. I think we're okay. I didn't see a car coming out of there sideways, so it looks like somebody just maybe went a little bit wide there. Now, Lalou's got to be a little bit careful here, because Blend, Walker, Gilliland, that's all Masters drivers. Yes, she's in 6th. Yes, she wants to keep up with those ahead, but she's not going to lose any points if she gets overtaken.
Yeah, very true. She needs to focus forward, not lose track position, and try and close in on that battle for class position out of the windscreen. It will be Janson leading Bocuse in this fight for 2nd across the line, but Aaron's got his mirrors full. We know Paul's got some good pace. We've seen that over the course of the weekend. Now he just needs to find a way by a driver with some pedigree, but is a driver who is new to this type of racing in the Porsche Cup car.
He's got to be asking himself, what's a guy got to do to finish higher than P2 in this series? And even then, he's not even up to that 2nd place quite yet here. He still needs to overtake Janson. He gets himself a decent run coming out of turn 3. Doesn't look like that's going to put himself in a position to try and attack down into turn 5, at least on this lap. But that yellow did eat up some of our racing time. We're down to 22 minutes left to go. So he can't wait and dilly-dally too long back there.
No, certainly not. Back through the pack, a couple of other battles to update you on in the Masters class. Gilliland is into 9th. Bowden is into 10th now overall, but that's 3rd and 4th in that class. Something to keep an eye on there. And then in the battle for 991 honors, Dimitri Demekos leads Meissner, leads Melito. 1, 2, 3 in that class. They run nose to tail.
Yeah, that one is likely going to be sorted between those 3, no doubt, as they have been some of the quickest this weekend, although Demekos we saw much faster in the first race. This time, his second qualifying lap, unfortunately not able to put distance between he and his rivals. Through the kink, you can see the speed and the slide of these cars as the tires try to hold on through that incredibly fearsome corner.
It is. It has that reputation, and it is well earned. If there was any question coming into the weekend, well, that's been resolved because a number of drivers have found out to their peril if you don't get it quite right in the kink, there are major consequences to be found on the other side. For the moment, though, everyone clean through the kink here in this second of two races this weekend. Jared Thomas leading Aaron Chanson. Paul Bocuse, though, right there, hot on his heels. That's the fight for second and third overall and in the Pro-Am class.
For how crazy that first lap was, it seems like things went single file relatively quickly this time on the restart. There is Lalu still being hunted by Scott Blend. She's got him at arm's length at least this time, unless he manages to also get himself a decent exit out of turn 3. That definitely, Ryan, one of the more important corners on this track.
Absolutely. You talk about the long straightaways here at Road America, and if you're prioritizing your corners, it's the corners that lead to the longest straightaways that are most important for lap time. So here you've got your pick of a couple of them. Certainly turn 14 onto the front straightaway with that hill climb involved up the hill to the start-finish line. That's a really crucial corner. Turn 3 in that run down to turn 5 right here. That's a big part of your lap time. And then also getting through the carousel and the kink cleanly in the run to Canada corner, absolutely crucial. This is Mark Kwame on the attack.
He's going to be able to get to the inside, and I think that is job done for that position. Also saw a little bit of a fight between Bowden and Musial Sr. Out there as they were trying to decide a top 10 position overall. Somebody trying to go for something brave down into turn 8. It doesn't get them a position, but they almost had their nose taken off.
Yeah, that was awfully close, deep in the pack. That's where the fight is the fiercest as ever. And you've got the different classes overlapping with one another, which makes things complicated. As far as the Masters and the 992 Pro-Ams go, those are both classes that utilize the newest 992 variation of the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. The 991 class, it's just what it sounds like. That's the previous generation 991 iteration of the Cup car. Little less power, little less downforce, slightly less sophistication on some of the electronic driver aids on that machine as well, but still a potent package, and we've seen over the course of the season that the 991s can mix it up with the 992s from time to time.
Well, I find this intriguing right now, Ryan, because as we said, this has gone single file quite quickly, and we've mentioned earlier today, this is the sunniest we've had all weekend, and while it's not super hot out, I can tell you that the pavement is getting quite hot. I wonder if we're seeing a lot of drivers settle in and try to save something for the end of the race.
Seems prudent to me, especially with the field this big, the likelihood of another yellow at some point, and with that, the bunching back up of the field, it seems like that is a fairly high probability. And so you want to make sure if you have a gap now, if that gap gets erased by a yellow, that you've got something left to fight with on a potential late race restart.
This is Blend still leading the Masters. Rob Walker has been breathing down his neck since the start, but he's not the only one that's being hunted because John Gilliland is directly behind him, and we know that John is happy to pick up any sort of opportunity he can get and would love to get himself another win, although I think that is Gilliland going off right now. The car spins a full 360 out of turn 7, and everybody has to scatter to try and avoid. Are we somehow going to get away without a wreck? I can't believe nobody had damage after that one.
Oh my goodness, John Gilliland and others got away with that one. That was wild. Big spin right in front of traffic, but now he's got to gather it back together, put that behind him. Look at the line of cars that's backed up like a traffic jam right behind John Gilliland, who's immediately back on it, pushing for all he's worth to make up for that miscue.
Unbelievable driving there. So I'll have to go and chat with him after the race because I'm sure that scared the willies out of him, but definitely a proud moment of recovery as we head down into Canada Corner. That line of cars still packed up behind him, knowing that car has some tires that are still getting the last little remnants of dirt and gunk off of them.
Yeah, that's true. Something to keep in mind. They're also probably quite warm after sliding across the surface like that. Possible flat spots you have to be concerned about as well as the race continues. But I think he'll take that, as opposed to the potential outcome that thankfully was avoided.
Any landing you can walk away from, I suppose, and that is Kwame in behind him, I believe, trying to see if he can threaten him into turn one. He is going to show himself in the mirrors and see if he can outbrake him down into that corner. He gets to the inside. Excuse me, that's Mim that is on the attack, and he is through.
Yeah, great pass there. That's for 13th overall. Mike Mim in a different class, but certainly has his head down as Gilliland tries to regain his composure after that lurid slide a couple of moments ago. At the front of the field, Jared Thomas just turned in the race's fastest lap, but John Son was only 0.04 of a second off of Jared's pace. Those two separated by less than 2 seconds, an almost identical gap back to Paul Bocuse in third, and Ashley Freiberg has been able to dispatch of Conrad Geis. She's back into the fourth spot and is turning her best laps of the race.
Meanwhile, Meissner and Melito have been kind of going back and forth. Melito put on the back foot there, and now cars from other classes could cost him a little bit of track position in comparison to his 991 rival. So he's going to have to try and charge back forward as we hop onto the 249 of Chiacchetti.
Alessandro down through Hurry Downs, left-handed corner here, out over all the rumble strips on corner exit, now under the Speedville Bridge and into the carousel. Long corner. Look at the patience on the throttle, slowly building it in. This is actually a downhill section of the racetrack. Tracking out at corner exit under the Mission Bridge, and then the run towards the kink, which ultimately deposits you right here in Canada Corner.
I can't take credit for this one, but for John Maskey, he sent us a message saying that save was the move of the race for Gilliland. I think it was utterly fantastic.
Well played, both of you. I've got nothing. You caught me empty-handed here. I can't bring anything to the party.
You got to hoof it, man.
Oh.
But as we come through turn one now, Jared Thomas still leading over Janson, and Bocuse has lost a little bit of touch with them. There you can see the gap between them growing from our view from above with the Yokohama blimp. But Thomas does seem to have control of things. It's definitely a number of car lengths between himself and the newcomer.
Keeping an eye on it. These two, again, know each other very, very well. Jared Thomas down into turn 5. That lead, though, is starting to close in a little bit. Johnson's finding the pace as the race progresses. Driving for Charlie Hayes, ex-Flying Lizard employee, learned a lot working with that operation and that shop based, I don't know if across the hall is quite right, but very, very close to the old Flying Lizard shop there at Sonoma Raceway. So they'll have a race on home turf coming up here in a few weeks' time.
I'm sure they'll relish the opportunity to get to celebrate so closely there. And yeah, I mean, if you're going to talk about a good pedigree, being a part of the Flying Lizard team is certainly one that you'll want to brag about if you come from that successful crew. Meanwhile, coming out of the kink once again, Thomas leading Janson and his brand new car from last round after unfortunately losing that tub to the incident he was involved in. Bocuse holding the last step on the podium ahead of the other of the three involved in that, Ashley Freiberg. It seems like they've been kind of stationary since the start of the race when they swapped around in the opening laps.
But Ashley is picking up the pace. Just ran her best lap of the race the last time by at a 2:10.6, which matches Jared Thomas's pace. The only driver faster right now is Aaron Johnson in second. Let's check the lap times this time by. Thomas dips down into the 2:09.6s and pulls out a gap again up to 1.8 seconds over Johnson. Bocuse did a 2:10.9. Freiberg, another personal best at a 2:10.3. That has her now within striking distance, 1.5 seconds back of the pole sitter.
She's pushing now, I think, to try and make sure she's a factor in this if need be towards the end of the race. Only 11 minutes plus a lap left to go. I want to give some kudos to Conrad Geis, last event's winner in race number 2. Still sitting in the top 5. Unfortunately, his pace has fallen off compared to those top drivers, so he's not quite as quick. But he's looking at another good set of points the way things are right now.
Could leave him vulnerable, though, to Therese Lalou, who is having a nice day here today, running in that 6th spot, closing in to the tune of a couple tenths of a second on the last lap. It's a 1.1 second gap. She was marginally quicker in the opening sector of this lap, and look, she could see her quarry right out the windscreen, so you know where her focus lies, trying to get up one more spot and maybe notch another top 5. That's the battle we watch right here. Watch for the blue car. Well, we swap away from it, and for good reason. We got a battle further back.
Yeah, I think that was Chiacchetti being overtaken by somebody in there up through turn 6. Absolutely mugged him up into there. They will move on to try and chase more cars. That was perhaps Shane Leathers, actually.
I think that's right. Shane coming from the back here today.
So different classes, if that's the case. Shouldn't be too worried about that. Again, these two classes in the 992s will not be sharing points. They will each have their own set of points according to their finishing order within their own class. But, as we've talked about extensively here on our broadcast, it provides track position. It can provide either a buffer to the car behind, or it could prevent you from attacking that car ahead that you're trying to chase down. So they still play in effect, and on top of it all, there is always the ego of race car drivers who want to beat everybody.
Yeah, overall results might not matter for points, but it does matter for that all-important ego, no doubt about that. As we watch Conrad Geis in the blue car come through, leading Therese Lalou with the light blue nose, but the bright yellow back end of that car. And on the side of the car, I know I've mentioned it a few times this year, but I love the graphic that they've got for Therese. Gran Turismo.
They even have shirts with it on it. I love that. Yeah, and that team really does have a lot of fun. As serious as they are about the racing, they make sure and kick back when the time comes. Conrad now coming down the hill and into the braking zone here of Turn 5 with Therese continuing to fill the mirrors. She's got to make sure that whenever she does attack, she doesn't leave herself vulnerable to Scott Blend, our Masters leader, also trailing behind in the other bright yellow car. You see in those pictures, we got a car off, and it looks like some pieces left behind at Canada Corner. So that is a 216, I think. That's John Manship, if that's correct. He was already a little bit down the order. Seems to have run into trouble in a corner that definitely is another one that will cost you if you get it wrong.
It's just about every corner around this place, in fairness. There aren't too many that won't reach out and bite you.
Well, it only bit him a little bit. He was able to shake it off and try to run to safety. We'll see if we see him down pit lane, especially if there are pieces that have been left behind here in Canada Corner. As we watch the Masters leaders now come up through Bill Mitchell Bend.
We were talking about a potential battle brewing between Geis and Lalou, and that was predicated by the fact that Conrad's pace had dropped off in the last few laps, but he's answered the bell. He's been doing personal best sectors on the last couple of laps here, and actually seems to be extending the advantage over Therese Lalou here the last couple times by. So it's still pretty close between the two of them. We'll keep an eye on it, and they seem to be towing Scott Blend along, the leader in the Masters class, who's putting together a remarkable second half of the season that has brought him very much into championship contention.
Indeed. I think Scott has been carrying his momentum quite well here. And I also want to say the same for Conrad Geis. I'd mentioned he had that breakthrough win. And yes, that was helped by the big accident that we had at Watkins Glen, but I mean, you look at the pace that he's running here and the fact that he is responding, like you said, to Therese starting to get quicker and closer to him. We have to remember, this is his first season of professional racing. This is a guy that's very green, and the learning curve that he has displayed has truly impressed me.
Well, it was fun talking to him back at the start of the season and learning a bit about his background. Both of his parents, mom and dad, both were racers in their own right, and while he had a passing interest, it sounded like, in what they were doing, it's taken him a little bit longer in life. I mean, he's not an old man by any means. He's still quite young, but didn't jump in a go-kart as a kid like so many of them did. Didn't go into single-seaters like many might have in a racing family, but finds himself in a position now where he can go racing and has been a quick study. And I think a lot of credit has to go to the MDK Motorsports team and specifically his coach, Jason Hart, who is a tremendous Porsche driver. GT4, GT3, single-make Porsche, you name it. He is outstanding and a really good coach to have helping Conrad along in this journey that he's embarked on this year.
Let's see how he deals with pressure now. Is this his first real lesson we're going to get to see with the driver crawling all over that rear spoiler? Because Therese Lalu is much, much closer this lap. In fact, at times she's been within about 2 or 3 car lengths of that car ahead. Let's see what the gap is as they cross the line in this battle for a top 5. About half a second between the pair of them, with Conrad going a tenth quicker than her this time by. Again, trying to turn up the wick, trying to keep out of reach.
It's been awesome, though. Just nip and tuck between the two. One lap, it goes Therese's way. The next lap, it goes Conrad's way. This has been a fantastic battle since this race restarted. And I think we're in for a lot of fun here over the final 5 minutes or so between these two who are so evenly matched.
Got a chance to talk to Therese last night during our dinner, and she had said she came over to here because, remember, she came from the West Series originally because she wanted the competition. She saw how many cars were competing over here, and she said, all right, I want to prove myself against many, many more drivers that are very fast.
Well, we talked about this in the context of Paul Bocuse yesterday, the fact that, yeah, he doesn't have the win in this series yet in the Cup cars, but he knows that he's racing against drivers like Jared Thomas, who are champions in single-make racing, Aaron Johnson, who was a Team USA scholarship recipient, Ashley Freiberg, who has, over a decade of experience from single-seaters to sports cars. These are drivers that have been at this for a long, long time. Well, Paul, it's only his second year of racing, so it's great to have those measuring sticks that you can race against in this championship. And for Therese, it's the same thing. Coming over here, maybe the podiums aren't coming as regularly as they did last year, but a top 5, a podium, something like that, when it does come her way, she knows she's done something special because of the names that she's racing against.
She had her first podium back at Watkins Glen, and I think she wants to try and repeat that one now, coming up through Bill Mitchell Bend here and up into the final corner. Again, she seems a little bit stuck at this stage with that car ahead just keeping her a little bit too far back. There's a little piece of debris on the track that we were getting from that camera angle in 14. It was one of the cameras that they are able to turn, so I wonder if they were just trying to show us that there's a little bit something slightly offline there.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Race Control will as well. Conrad Geis on that last lap just took a 5-second advantage over Therese Lalu, so that helps him big time to extend the lead now, up over a second again to Therese. It's been a while since it's been that far apart for these two. Jared Thomas and Aaron Johnson, almost identical in their lap times, it seems like, lap after lap. One lap, maybe it's advantage Thomas. The next, it's advantage Johnson. Bocuse and Freiberg starting to close in the fight for third. It's down to less than a second between those two. And then in the 991s, we haven't seen them a whole lot, but it's worth noting from a championship perspective that Niels Meissner runs second. He was second yesterday, which means he was ahead of Tony Molito, and that's allowing him to slowly but surely pad that points lead. That was a mere 19 tallies coming into the weekend, and it could be a bit more than that as we look ahead to the season finale at Sonoma.
I noticed as I was checking on those 991s just as you were talking about it, and the 210 of Jody Miller has been dropping tons and tons of positions, probably in the realm of about 10 or so. And I didn't see anybody stopped on our track map, so I'm curious as to what happened, because I don't think we've had anybody go by us in the pit lane recently. So not sure what's going on with the MGM driver on that one.
Good question, and we'll endeavor to find an answer, but unfortunate there for Jody. Anticipating there will be 2 laps remaining at the line here as the leaders come through in the run to Canada Corner. Now, there will be a little bit of time, I anticipate, still on the clock, which means we'll see the white flag not this time by, but the following time by for Jared Thomas, who continues to lead. Impressive because he was dropped back to 3rd at the beginning of this race, but raced his way back to the front, around Paul Bocuse, around Aaron Janson, and now shows the way. And in the meantime, the pole sitter Bocuse here is having his mirrors filled with Ashley Freiberg. Battle on here, though. This is for position. Lalou and Geis going side by side.
Therese going a long way around, has to take to the runoff, gets back to the circuit, but by that point, it looks like Geis is back in front of her. She'll try again later, no doubt, but like you said, 2 laps to go at this point. This has allowed Scott Blend, Rob Walker to both join the party. Both of them fighting for the win in the Masters class. And Blend, even, if he doesn't want to get involved with that battle in front of him, he has to play a rear guard. He has to try and do what he can to keep Rob Walker from snookering him.
Yeah, he might not have a choice. He might have to get stuck in on this battle between Pro-Am drivers ahead of him just because he's under so much pressure now from Rob Walker, who's looking to notch another podium here this season. Conrad Geis had some kind of a hiccup on that last lap, Joe. He lost a second to Therese Lalou, and that's why we suddenly had that battle on our hands in the run down to turn 1.
Interesting. So maybe there are a few cracks showing for that bright blue machine. Thomas going to be coming through pretty soon now to take that white flag. He's been absolutely relentless this season with victory after victory. Few have been able to dethrone him, and he is going to add to that tally if things stay the same until we reach that checkered flag. Down through the kettle bottoms, and Ashley, I noticed she was getting a little close here to Paul, and suddenly she's making a race of it.
That's for the final step on the podium. White flag waiting for the leaders the next time around. In fact, Jared Thomas coming to the flag stand now. He will take the white flag. There he goes, flashing by with 1 lap to go. But the battle is for that 3rd position, with Ashley Freiberg keeping the pressure on the pole sitter Paul Bocuse.
Former teammates, Paul and Ashley. She has since switched over to the Kelly Moss team with only 3 tenths between herself and the 271. They come up towards turn 3 now, while in front of them we can see our leader, Jared Thomas, a full 2 seconds ahead of Aaron Janson.
No contest between the two. Yellow is out. Full course yellow. And we'll do our best to identify what the cause of that is, but that breaks off the fight that we had brewing there for the 3rd spot. It looks like Bocuse is set to hang on to that final step of the podium.
I think it's Nick Groombridge in turn 6. Yeah, we get visual of him now off to the side of the track and apparently unable to move. I have no idea if he's hit the wall, but it is common to go a little wide in turn 6 and it spits you back out into the concrete.
As an aside, bottom right of the screen, that's Jim Johnson, isn't it? That's his hat.
Yeah, that is him.
Yeah, he's taking in the racing from high above the racetrack there, turn 7. He was in the Cayman race earlier today, but tough here for Groombridge, who had some kind of an issue that's brought out the yellow and effectively brings it into the proceedings here today.
That's a real shame. Also, I want to say that is actually an excellent spot to watch from. You see all the way from turn 6 down into the Hurry Downs and really get a sense of the elevation drop that you have in that portion of the lap. So they're not in any sort of hurry here, and I don't see major damage on the car, so may have gotten away a little lucky with just a spin and the car would not restart. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see the fight for P3 carry all the way to the end of this one. And I'm sure Ashley is going to be annoyed that she didn't get any last attempts at trying to go by Paul. But Paul racking up yet another of his many, many podiums this season.
That's what he does. That's how he won the Cayman Championship that he won a season ago. Asked him about where he stands in his development and what's next for him earlier in the weekend, and either he was being very coy or perhaps he just truly doesn't know what the future holds. But I think he's exploring a couple different possibilities to take that next step in his racing career. He's been super impressive as a young man and learning by keeping the car on track, not making mistakes, just racking up the mileage, getting faster and faster as the season progresses.
From the final corner, it might not be at full song, but Jared Thomas knows a win is a win, and he had this one pretty well under control anyways. So for the 296, he comes around once again and takes victory here at Road America. Janson following him home with Paul Bocuse getting another podium himself, while Scott Blend takes victory down in the Masters. Rob Walker going to follow him and Bowden in third. For our 991s, Dimitri Demakos back-to-back here ahead of Niels Meissner and Tony Melito to end what was a tense race out there. Drivers fighting hard for every inch of track.
Well, that's what we come to expect from this championship, isn't it? And it did deliver. Unfortunately, not the end result that we were hoping for with the race ending under yellow. I think we had a good battle brewing there for the final podium spot and a couple other positions, no doubt, throughout the field. But the good news is this was a nice appetizer for what's coming up later on today with a massive field of both 911 equipment as well as Cayman set to take part in the second ever Porsche Endurance Challenge race. Not just of the season, but ever, as that series debuted earlier this year at Circuit of the Americas. You'll want to stick around for that, a 1-hour dash with a pit stop and a driver change, although there are a few single driver lineups involved in that competition, and it serves as a prelude for the next round of that series, which will be at Sonoma, and then it culminates in November with a 6-hour race down at Circuit of the Americas. And if the whispers around the paddock are anything to be counted on, I think we're going to have a really jam-packed grid down at Circuit of the Americas with some cool names involved in that too. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. Final results, at least provisional final results from the final race of the weekend. Jared Thomas, Aaron Janson, Paul Bocuse. That's the podium in the Pro-Am class ahead of Conrad Geis and Therese Lalou. Scott Blend picks up the win, building off of a second-place finish yesterday. That's big for him in the points. He gets that much closer now to the Masters class championship lead. Rob Walker on the podium in second. Mark Bowden in the third spot in class. And then for the 991s, Dimitri Demakos makes it a weekend sweep for Honey Badger Motorsports. Comes home 15th overall, but the winner in 991, Niels Meissner, edges his championship rival, Tony Melito, second and third. That championship, too, coming down to the wire. Podium festivities about to get underway, and we'll have them for you in just a few minutes. You're watching Porsche Sprint Challenge North America by Yokohama from Road America.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, Weathertech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? Weathertech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at weathertech.com.
Race number 2 is
All
in
right,
the books,
it's time
which
for our
means
podium
it's time to
ceremonies for the
head
Porsche
down to
Sprint
the podium
Challenge North
with
America
Joe Peak.
GT3 Cup Series. And we're going to start it off with the 991s. Finishing third today in the number 127, it's Tony Melito. Then in second, driving the number 152, Niels Meissner. And driving the number 199, our winner for today, it's back-to-back for Dimitri Demakos. Congratulations, Dimitri. This time you started a little bit closer to your competitors. Does that give you any nerves out there on the track?
100%, especially on the first lap. Anything can happen. This guy almost got me into 6, so they gave me a good run, and we had a lot of fun out there.
What's it like dealing with all the 992s around as well? Because you guys are thoroughly intermixed out there.
Right. You know, it's tough. Obviously, the 991 is not as fast of a car. We really got to work out there just to stay with them, be smart about tire management, and just stay out of trouble.
Well, you did an excellent job of it. Congratulations on the victory. That's Dimitri Demakos, our winner in the 991s. And with all that hard work, they get to relax with some champagne. Once again, congratulations to our 991 podium finishers.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
This brings us to the 992 Masters now. Finishing third, our points leader, it's the number 246, Mark Bowden. Then in the now infamous Herbie the Love Bug in the number 253 of Rob Walker. And our winner today, driving the number 245 machine, it's Scott Blend. Scott, congratulations. Now, you had an... Yeah, it is, isn't it? It gets very sticky. Now, I mean, you were in a sticky situation yourself because those two in front of you, Therese and Conrad, they were fighting hard, but you had Rob breathing down your neck.
Yes, it was a balance there because, you know, with Rob and Mark, and of course Mike's on the radio saying you got him, you know, and he's gaining on me, but I didn't want to get tangled up with Therese and Conrad, so I'm trying to balance front and back, so it worked out. I'm glad there weren't any more laps left in that race, so it was good. These two guys, I'm happy and proud to share the podium with them. This has just been fantastic racing with this whole paddock. Thanks to this crew out here, these guys just, you know, keep me going, keep this car just unbelievable. And of course, thanks you all, the staff and USAC for, you know, making it so much fun.
What do you attribute this increase in momentum towards the end of the season? Is there any specific thing that has helped you out?
Well, an increased budget and lots of seat time. I think that's what's doing it. We're spending a lot of time in the car. I just absolutely love it. I don't know if I'll get burned out, but for the moment, it's just, Mike, I drive him crazy. He sets his schedule, and then we're like, let's do this. He's like, you're killing me. So anyway, that's what it is, lots of seat time.
Always helps. And again, congratulations to our winner, Scott Blend. Let's do trophies first. Got to get those pictures. Now you can spray the champagne. Congratulations to our eager 992 Masters podium finishers. And that takes us to our Apex Award for today. This is for our hard charger of the race, and it's driving the number 256, John McInnes, taking home the award. Congrats to John for taking home the Yokohama Apex Award. And now we've got the 992 Pro-Am Podium. Finishing third, it's the number 271 of Paul Bocuse. Parachuting in this weekend and showing some impressive speed. Second place goes to the number 250 of Aaron Jasson. And our winner in the number 296 points leader, Jared Thomas. Jared, congratulations on the victory. The start certainly seemed like there was a lot of swapping of positions going on. Did you feel like that was really your time?
No, I butchered the start pretty bad. So, but no, that was a lot of fun. That was when you can dice it up with these guys. That's what is really enjoyable.
Of course, we had a few yellows in there, and that always backs things up. How do you handle when you know you've got the pace and this opens opportunities for your rivals?
Well, I was on the offensive there in the caution. Obviously, the one that ended the race, we didn't get a chance to restart, but I had to go on the defensive, and so you have a little bit different strategy when it comes to that. You know, you're looking to push them into a mistake or something of that sort. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, it was fun to watch. Congratulations once again, our winner here today, Jared Thomas, and the number 296. And until we get to our endurance race a little bit later on for one more time, let's spray some champagne. Thank you so much for joining us for our Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup Series. Up next, the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America coming up later today.